Greed is a parasite, one that infects each and every human at some point or another. It's through our lived experience that we are challenged to free ourselves from the clutches of this source of evil. For some, that comes easier than others, allowing the ability to create freely and happily, not worrying about the potential monetary gain it could lead to. The others, however, well, they're shown what kind of misery life can become when you put all of your faith into the fabricated power of the dollar. A great example of these themes can be found in the Season 2 episode of SpongeBob, Patty Hype. It deals a lot with the scrutiny innovators can face when expressing their ideas to people who frankly don't understand them, as well as the slimy ways those same people will change their minds after seeing those bizarre ideas achieve success. It's a tale as old as time, but I think with where the internet and social media is, this story is more poignant than ever. The episode starts off at the Crusty Crab, having a notably slow day of business. This is visually exaggerated through the use of dust and cobwebs, emphasizing to the viewer that the Krusty crew hasn't seen a single customer in quite some time. And as someone who's worked in fast food before, this is exactly what it feels like. I mean, don't get me wrong, it never hurts when there's a break in between rushes so you can breathe for a minute, but when there aren't any customers for hours, it feels like an eternity. Finally, this dead restaurant is brought back to life as a desperate customer bursts in. He's desperate for food, starving, and Mr. Krabs quickly comes to his aid, showing off a typical Krabby Patty meal. And instead of gladly taking the burger and consuming it, the customer instead begins to criticize it. He says to Mr. Krabs, "Yeah, it might be a good burger, but where's the pizzazz?" Mr. Krabs looks puzzled by this sentiment. His thought is that people don't go to a restaurant for pizzazz, they go for food. And sure, this isn't a bad feeling to have, it's a logical one. But unfortunately in this world, having the best burger just isn't enough anymore. People want to be entertained. So even if the Krusty Krab does offer good food, without additional reasons to draw in customers, they'll begin to flock to other places. And this is exactly what's shown next. Mr. Krabs tries to pull off cheap stunts in order to drive business, such as burying himself alive. And while it does work for a brief moment, the people are quickly swayed to go somewhere else because they have a talking dog. Oh, and
It's singing! Come on!
it's safe to say that it's gonna take more than some clickbait tactics to bring the Krusty Krab out of this slump. With this in mind, Mr. Krabs begins to brainstorm, but he's not coming up with anything of substance. This is due to the fact that he's not trying to come up with an idea because he's curious about what people would like more. He just wants to find an idea that fills his wallet. This scene perfectly depicts the difference between marketing from a business perspective and a creative perspective. Sure, the businessman might know what resonates with their demographic on a surface level, but the creative can tap into what resonates with the people on an emotional level. Because at the end of the day, good marketing is storytelling, and creatives are wonderful storytellers. If only Mr. Krabs knew someone in his immediate vicinity who was creative. Oh wait, yeah, during this whole scene of Mr. Krabs pacing back and forth, SpongeBob is consistently speaking up, insisting that he has an idea that'll bring customers back. However, Mr. Krabs is so engulfed in his own ego and lust for wealth that SpongeBob's voice is merely white noise to him, which as a creative myself, is an unfortunate reality far too often. It's not until SpongeBob makes a scene that Mr. Krabs gets out of his own head and listens to the young fry cook. This leads to the grand reveal of SpongeBob's idea. Pretty patties. They're like regular Krabby Patties, but they come in an assortment of designer colors. And sure, this idea might seem silly and outside of the box, but that's typically what people buy into. But Mr. Krabs isn't buying it. And it'd be one thing if he just said he wasn't a fan of the idea, but instead, he makes fun of it, saying it's absolutely ridiculous, and even getting Squidward involved in the heckling. This leaves SpongeBob distraught. These are the people he works with after all. It seemed reasonable for him to think that this would be a safe space to share his ideas, but instead he's met with this reaction. This brutal scrutiny doesn't get to SpongeBob for very long though. His sad expression soon evolves into one of frustration. He takes the pretty patties with him as he leaves the restaurant, telling Mr. Krabs and Squidward that he'll start his own restaurant and that his patties will be appreciated. But as he leaves, it doesn't faze his boss and coworker, who continue to laugh as they rot in their still decrepit restaurant. When SpongeBob arrives home, he stumbles upon a visibly upset Patrick. The two of them explain what's got them in disarray, which results in Patrick showing support for SpongeBob's idea. And can we just take a second to appreciate Patrick in this moment? Sure, these two have their ups and downs, but this is an exemplary moment of friendship shown by the silly starfish. He's supportive of his friend's vision, which is what a true friend is for. These are the kinds of friends you want in your life. The ones that will encourage you to follow your dreams instead of deeming them as silly or unrealistic. This resonates with me a lot, as I feel like my closest friends have always been supportive of my creative endeavors. Heck, even this YouTube channel. My friends not only encourage it, but even keep me accountable to some degree. It's truly heartwarming to experience, and seeing these elements of friendship shown in this silly little cartoon just makes me smile. Anyway, the two of them make a stand and sit back as they wait for their first customer to arrive. But unfortunately, nobody does, which makes SpongeBob really upset. He begins to question everything, wondering if his idea was ever good to begin with. He's going through a terrible feeling that all creatives go through. Sometimes we don't see the fruits of our labor right away, but that doesn't mean they're bad ideas. What I've learned in life, and what I'm continuing to learn, is patience. Being patient when trying to bring about new creative projects and ideas. I realize that everything I make has the potential to grow into something great, but different things grow at different rates. What's really important is consistency. Showing up for that idea every day in big ways and small. After all, how can you expect a seed to grow if you don't water it? It's all too common for people to be excited about a personal goal only to fizzle out when they don't see immediate progress. I say this humbly because it's happened to me more times than I can count. Yet, even when faced with this doubt, SpongeBob doesn't give up. Patrick slaps some sense into him, and you'll never guess what happens next. That's right, a customer finally arrives, only it doesn't immediately go as expected. When he's shown a green Pretty Patty, he's not impressed. Much like Mr. Krabs and Squidward, he makes fun of it. However, something changes his mind. He notices a purple one, and purple just so happens to be his favorite color. Suddenly, he's completely sold on the idea. And this is where the beauty of SpongeBob's idea for Pretty Patties is seen in full effect. Sure, they're just colorful burgers, but that's not the point. It's not about what colors they are, it's about what the colors represent. Buying these sandwiches not only allows people to get a meal, but also gives them an outlet to express themselves. And people love being able to express themselves. So, naturally, word goes around and some more people show up at the stand. You know, a couple. Meanwhile, at the Krusty Krab, Mr. Krabs has resigned himself to his office, wallowing in self-pity. He's given up on the Krusty Krab, showing his true colors. He's not much of a hard worker. He's more drawn to the reward of hard work rather than the actual process of working hard. And when you only approach projects caring little about the process and being hyper-fixated on the potential wealth it could accrue, you're gonna burn out and ultimately fail. It's really just a matter of time. This scene of Mr. Krabs perfectly illustrates that. He's only in it for the money, and as he's watching a soap opera, he's shocked when a news report interrupts it, showing a familiar face. Upon seeing SpongeBob's success, Mr. Krabs decides he needs to go see it for himself. When he arrives at the stand, he's taken aback by the sheer insanity of the crowd SpongeBob has managed to attract. Not only that, but SpongeBob's been giving profits away, further showing that he's not in it for the money. He's in it for the love of the craft. All at once, Mr. Krabs gets his comeuppance, and for a moment, he expresses that to SpongeBob, saying that he'd been all wrong about his idea. On top of that, not only is the Krusty Krab still doing poorly, but he also misses having a star fry cook there too. It's a moment of humility for Mr. Krabs, and the sentiment is reciprocated by SpongeBob, who also misses the good old days at the restaurant. This unfortunately brings this burst of humility and sincerity from Mr. Krabs to an immediate close, as he realizes the potential opportunity that this could provide him. His greed is once again getting in the way of his ability to foster any meaningful relationships in his life. Once again, he doesn't see SpongeBob as a friend, he sees him as a stepladder to wealth. So, he pulls out his inner con man and butters SpongeBob up, regaling him on all the things he loved about the Krusty Krab. And it works. It works so well that when Mr. Krabs proposes a trading of businesses, SpongeBob immediately accepts it. However, when Mr. Krabs arrives at the stand the next day, eagerly awaiting his fortune, he's instead met with a bunch of upset customers demanding a refund. Turns out, Pretty Patties have their fair share of physical side effects. Immediately, Mr. Krabs bails, running for his life from the angry mob. Only, when he gets to the Krusty Krab expecting a safe haven, it's locked. And as he fishes in his pockets for his keys, he remembers the deal he had made with SpongeBob, looking inside and seeing the happy little sponge squeaking 2 pickle slices together with glee. If the story hadn't already drilled it into the viewer's head by now, this was the most direct way to depict it. If you try to sell something to people just for the sake of making money, you won't go as far as someone who's passionate about the vision. Sure, SpongeBob may be responsible for the side effects the customers are facing, but he would have handled the backlash so much better than Mr. Krabs did, because he actually took the time to be present and connect with his customers. He saw them for the people they are, not just walking ATMs. Mr. Krabs only ever saw what he could get out of them. So when they were no longer happy, instead of seeing their upset faces, he only saw their wallets closing. So he ran. But rest assured, he didn't get away with it this time. Like I said earlier, this story really resonates with me. Whenever I make something, I always ask myself if the reason for making it is coming from the right place. In this world, where it seems like everything is trying to be commodified, it's easy to subconsciously want to ride the wave. I've been guilty of it myself, making videos in the past because I wanted to see a return, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't keep it up because it really didn't do much for me, and I had to stop and think to myself, is it worth it? Sure, it might work for some people. After all, some people are like Mr. Krabs. They don't care if it fulfills them on some deeper mental or spiritual level. As long as their bank account is growing, they'll keep churning out whatever it is that's making it happen. I don't ever want there to be that kind of dissonance between me and my work. It's honestly really unsettling. This is all to say, if you have a creative itch, please pursue it. Show it to the world. Who cares if other people judge it? If it's not hurting anyone, why not express yourself? You might be surprised where that idea could take you, but just make sure you don't lose sight of what it means to you. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.